Okay, we're in the bottom of Samar Zayin Amud Aleph, 67a. Okay, let's just say a little 2 minutes to review. I guess it says probably yesterday, maybe even a little bit from Shabbos. Basically, the key ideas here we'll discuss is the concept of Shinoi Kaina and Yush. So, as we said, Shinoi means a change. There are two types of Shinuyim, right? There's a Shinui Maisa and a Shinui Hashem. Shinui Maisa, basically everyone agrees, if you do a physical change to the item, then the robber acquires the item, meaning he transfers his obligation from returning the stolen item to a financial obligation. Shinui Hashem, if you change the name of the object, even though the object isn't touched, for example, you stole a skin and you decided to turn it into a tablecloth, that was a machlokes. And then we had Yush. Yush is a big machlokes, and we'll see today there's really a three-way machlokes, and I think I'm probably, even before we see it, I'll probably just go through the details right now. Okay, so what is Yush? Yush is when the owner gives up on the item. And let's try to categorize it. There are three positions with regard to Yush. Number one is that Yush Kaina. What does that mean? It means as soon as you give up on the item, the robber acquires it. So we'll have to see, there are a lot of differences here. For example, if you steal from a thief, you do not pay kefil. However, once the thief acquires it, then you would pay kefil. It's a big major difference here, right? So for example, let's say somebody steals something and the original owner does not yet give up on it. He's in the middle of pressing a court case. And then somebody steals that item from the robber. That second robber does not pay kefil. If, however, the owner has given up on getting it back, and you're of the opinion that says Shinei Kaina, then the second robber would not pay kefil. There's another opinion that says that Shinei is not Kaina. I'm sorry. Wrong, my apologies. Talking about Yish here. Yish again is giving up. One opinion says Yish Kaina, meaning Yish you completely acquire it. The other opinion says Yish Eine Kaina. Yish is not an act of acquisition. By the way, there's some major differences here. Let's say, for example, you say, "Hey, now I'm really going." Okay, I think it's worthwhile to go here as well. Okay, I'm going to take the extra 2 minutes to go through this, even though it might not be relevant today, it might only be relevant tomorrow, and we can review it then quicker. Okay, there's a major point here. Yish Kaina, Yish Eine Kaina. Okay, now we have a fundamental question. We talk about Tovach Umacha, right? The parak of Meruba, we discuss Kefil, Dalad V'Hei. Kefil double payment, Dalad V'Hei is 4 and 5, 4 for the sheep, 5 for the ox. How do you pay Dalad V'Hei? If you're Tovach Umachar, if you slaughter or sell. Now, let's go to this, forget about the slaughtering. Slaughtering obviously is a Shinui Maisa, right? You had an animal, now you have a pile of carcass and blood. It's dead. However, mechira, selling it. So here's the question. If I sell something that I don't have a right to sell, the sale is not valid. Does the Torah indict you for Dalad V'Hei specifically because you attempted something wrong or because you actually did something wrong? So let's explain. If you say Shinei is Eine Kaina, I'm not Shinei. Yush is not Kaina. And you're of the opinion that the sale, therefore, before that, let's say the owner did not give up on the lost object, on the stolen object. Okay, and the robber attempts to sell it. Okay, now, the robber's sale is invalid because the owner still has a claim to it. In other words, the proper terminology would be the robber's attempted sale or sham sale, because it's not really a sale. There's nothing legitimate about it. The sale is not a valid sale. Does the Torah require you to pay Dalad V'Hei for that attempt or not?
Well, did he try to, after that, did he try to slaughter?
No, so it's sell or slaughter, either
Oh,
one.
sell or slaughter.
So he attempted to sell something that was whose sale was not legitimate. Let's change this for a second. Give another scenario. Okay, let's say you say Yish Kaina. Okay, forget it before Yish Kaina. Let's say you went ahead and you broke the animal's bone. Okay, broken bone, and let's say it's the type of bone that does not render the animal a treifa, meaning this animal can continue to live for a very long time with the broken bone, but it can't be used for work. So this would constitute a shinoi, different animal. You made a physical change. However, the halacha would be that now, if you slaughtered or sold the animal, you would not pay dalad v'hei. Why not? Because at this point, you have no obligation to return the animal. Your obligation is merely to pay for the animal. It's a different animal now. Okay. Now let's go back to Yish. Yish Kaina. Let's say Yish Kaina. And you slaughter an animal, that the owner has given up on. So you acquired it. Now you have financial obligation. Do you pay dalad v'hei or not? It's your animal. You have a financial obligation now.
The robber.
The robber
has a financial obligation.
So the robber acquires the animal, now slaughters it or sells it. It's too late.
Somebody has to pay.
No, he doesn't have to pay dalad v'hei because he owns it. In other words, he doesn't have an obligation to return the animal anymore. He has a financial obligation.
Okay.
He has to slaughter or sell the stolen animal. This animal now belongs to him. Right? If you steal it from him, you would have to pay kefil. Whereas if you stole it from him before the owner gave up, you would not have to pay kefil. Okay. This is a number of the major points we'll be discussing. Okay, Amarullah. The beginning is easy. Couple good questions. Okay. How do we know that yush does not work? Shenamar, as the pasuk says, "V'havesim es hagozel es piseach v'asachayla." Gozel don't mean to piseach. Piseach is an animal that's limping. 1 second. Okay, this is the prophet criticizing the Jews for bringing sacrifices that were either stolen or limp, or ill, unhealthy animals. So, okay, the point is that what's gezel compared to, what's stolen compared to? Limp and ill. The animal with a limp has no solution to it. Klal. Af gozel the less like the kanta. Acher yush. 1 second. Okay, meaning what Ula is saying here is yush does not work. Meaning the animal still remains stolen. It remains thus. Again, the critical point here is as follows: if you did steal an animal, right? Let's say the animal had a baby. The robber can bring that whatever kids or calf as a sacrifice. Again, a robber steals a pregnant animal, has a feed, right, and has either a kid or a calf, right, or I think it's what's the baby sheep called? A lamb. Sorry, lamb, a kid or a calf. Okay, and the robber can bring that animal as a sacrifice because that animal's not. It was a child of a stolen animal. It is sacrifice eligible. Now the point here is, Rav Ula is pointing out you're not able to bring a stolen animal as a sacrifice, meaning it doesn't make a difference whether or not the owner has given up on finding it. Well, why not? If the owner has given up on finding it, and we say yush kaina, then it should be the robber's animal, and he should be able to bring it as a sacrifice. It must be yush is not kaina.
What's yush and kaina again?
Yush means the owner has given up on attempting to collect it. Kaina means that the robber has thenceforth acquired it, meaning it actually belongs to him. His obligation is no longer to return the stolen animal, although he could do that. His obligation, it's a financial obligation now.
Yeah.
Pay the value of the animal. Okay. Rava says mihalcha from here. Karbonai v'lo hagosel. You have to bring your own sacrifice, not a stolen one. The Gemara says, Emas, what are we referring to? If you're talking about before he gave up, Pshita, Lamali Kra. Why do I need a pasuk? Obviously, you can't bring an animal if it isn't yours. El Lav, it must be La'achar Yish, even after the owner has given up, and even though it might be, the owner has given up, and maybe somebody else can acquire it, but you can't. The robber does not acquire the stolen item. Shema Mina, this is a proof. The Gemara says, Rava himself previously addressed this point and said there could be a different point here. In other words, you steal an animal and you bring it as a sacrifice. Okay. So Rava says there are 2 points here. Number one, the robber didn't bring a sacrifice, but number two, the owner didn't bring a sacrifice. Because normally I can send my sacrifice with you as a messenger. It probably depends on the sacrifices you have to be there, but most sacrifices you can send with a messenger. So maybe this should be a good sacrifice for the original owner. And that's what the verse is referring to. Meaning the verse is telling you stolen item is not good as a sacrifice. Why? Not because you don't own it, because we're talking about the original owner. It doesn't work for the original owner as well because it's not in his control, it's in the robber's control. So the Gemara says, so if that's the case, then Rava could read the same. How could Rava bring the source of Karbonei V'lei Hagazol? When Rava is saying Karbonei V'lei Hagazol refers to the sacrifice working for the original owner, not for the thief. So the Gemara says, one possibility is Hadrabe. Rava changed his mind. Or Papa Omro. One of these statements was attributed mistakenly to Rava. It's really Rav Papa. So they don't actually disagree. We just don't know which is which. Okay. Umidas tashlumi arba v'chamisha. The rule of 4 and 5 is only relevant to 2 specific types of animals. It's a sheep and it is cattle. And by the way, the answer to your question of whether it's an ox or cattle, it's probably cattle because the verse says chamisha boker yishalom. Boker is over for cattle. So if you takas ashar, so I'd imagine it's not specific to an ox, a male or female. That would be my guess. Okay, so Gemara says v'ma'ay neilav shor mishabas malahal chayav oif kiyetz behen afkan chayav oif kiyetz behen. Okay, when with regard to Shabbos, let me just get the verse in my head for a second. Hold on. One second. There it is. Okay, there it is. It's in Parshas Veschanan, where the verse specifies that you can't do work, right? Not you, not your slave, not your maidservant. Your ox or your donkey. But let me ask you, if you have a macaw, can you get the macaw to do malacha for you?
What?
A smart macaw, a bird.
Oh, the bird doesn't.
Yeah. Or if you have some other animal, is it limited specifically to sharcha and chameracha, only your ox and donkey? Of course not. It's any animal you own. Any animal you own, you can't have them do work on Shabbos. So just like with regard to Shabbos, it's chayav oif kiyetz behen. If you have a pet deer or cougar, and or if you have a bird like a macaw or a cockatoo or something, and you want them to do the work for you, it's also prohibited. So Amar Rava, Amar Kra, Shor v'seh. Shor v'seh shnei pamim. The word shor and seh appear twice. Shor v'seh in midyachweni loy. Shor v'seh specifically, nothing else. Okay, now if you take a moment, this Gemara is a long roundabout, which I'm going to move through a little quickly. So let's go through if you have in the fancy Gemaras, you have on the side of the page, the Torah or Shalom, it's worthwhile to read the verse in full. Okay, ish shor oiseh. I'm reading from the verse. Shmais Chaf Aleph Lamed Zayin 21:37. Somebody steals shor, an ox, oiseh, or a sheep. Okay, clear? Utvachai imachari, and he slaughters it or he sells it. The penalty is chamisha bokar yishalom tachas ashar. 5 cattle in place of the ox, va'arbat sign, and 4 sheep tachas haseh in place of the sheep. Okay. You see quite clearly here, we repeat the word shor and seh are repeated twice. Number one, you'll steal a shor and seh, an ox and a sheep, and then you'll pay 5 cattle in place of the shor, 4 sheep in place of the sheep. Okay. Ilay Masharva said the Seifa. I'm sorry, 1 second. Okay, so therefore, the fact that they're repeated, that tells me specifically an ox and a sheep, nothing else. So Gemara says, Amri Hai Miyater. Okay, no problem. So you're telling me that the Torah did not have to write shor and seh twice, right? And that, in other words, one is extra to limit it specifically to an ox or a sheep. Okay, which one is extra? Ilay Masharva said the Seifa. It's the end. In other words, Torah says you steal an ox and a sheep and you slaughter it. It could have said you pay 5 cattle in place of what you stole, 4 sheep in place of what you stole. Why does it have to specify an ox and a sheep again? In place of what you stole, instead of saying tachas haseh or tachas hashor. If the Torah would have written this, I would think meaning I would think that if the Torah would have written it this way, I would think if you steal a sheep, a ox or a sheep, then you actually pay 9 animals, 5 oxen and 4 sheep for either animal which you stole. If you'll say haksiv tachtav, cha tachtav miyater, why is the word tachtav repeated? One of those tachtavs is extra to tell me that that if you steal an ox, you pay oxen. If you steal a sheep, you pay sheep. You would need it for something else. The tanya yachal ganav shor shovimona yishalom tachtav negidin. Okay, I would think that when you have to pay the 5 cattle, well, it doesn't actually have to be the same. You just have to pay 5 living animals. Even if it's a nugget. Nugget is an animal that's basically about to die. Yeah. So in other words, you owe him 5 cattle, no problem. You give him 5 clunkers, whatever, about to die basically. You give him 5 severely ill animals that are basically worthless. So the Gemara Talmud tachtat. No, tachtat. You have to give him exactly the type of animal that you stole. You stole a valuable animal, give back a valuable animal. Okay, El Sharva said Deresha Miyuter. 1 second. 1 second.
5 times the value of that animal, not what your animal could pull this much weight. I'm giving you 4.
5 times the value of the animal.
Yeah.
Okay, Talmud Leimer tachtav. Okay, so in other words, fine. So therefore, the verse it says tachtav, meaning you have to give them the same type of animal. But again, back to the main point. The second shor and seh are clearly not extra. Good. Okay. Ela sharva said the reisha miyuter. Okay, so it must be the first time. The Torah says when you steal a shor and a seh, it didn't have to say that. What could it have said instead? The Torah could have written as follows: Yignev ish utvachim mechari. If somebody steals and he slaughters or sells, presumably he stole any type of animal, right?
Right. Yeah.
So what can we do? Klala prat, ein bechlala masher prat, right? Remember my truck store. Guy sells. We sell trucks. I sell tow trucks, pickup trucks, and Suburbans. What does he sell? He only sells those 3 animals. So let's specify it at the end. Pay 5 cattle for every ox stolen, 4 sheep for every sheep stolen. What does that tell me? The general category of ganav is a prat, and ein b'chalal masher a prat. There's only 2 examples of this. Okay, if the verse would have specified it as follows, I would think adigon of trei v'tavach lahu. Okay, I would think perhaps that you have to steal an ox and a sheep, and you have to slaughter both or sell both the ox and the sheep, and then you have to pay 5 plus 4. Because how do I know you can only do one of them? Either or. Simar says, well, what do you mean? Utvachai and you slaughtered, that implies you slaughtered only one animal. Ksiv l'chad. Sigmar says, okay, you're right. The ema adigon of travayu umezaven lahu. Okay, you're right. But maybe if you sell it, you have to sell both of them. So in other words, you're right. If you steal them, you only have to slaughter one. But maybe if you sell them, you have to slaughter. You slaughter them, you have to slaughter both. Sigmar says, machar ksiv. Umachar means he sold that specific animal. Chad, only one animal. Okay, so the Gemara says you're right. So he had to have he could have sold one or slaughtered one. But maybe the ema havamina, I would think, adigonav trei v'tavachad umezaven chad. Maybe you have to steal both an ox and a sheep, slaughter one and sell the other one. So the Gemara says oimachar. It says or, so you only have to do one action, either selling or slaughtering. Okay, no, okay, fine. But kadi havamina, I would still think. Adigonav travayu v'tavachad umeshayar chad umezaven chad umeshayar chad. Maybe you still need to steal both an ox and a sheep, but you can slaughter or sell either the ox or the sheep, and leave over the other one.
What if there's still 2 ox and no sheep?
Then you maybe that the Gemara, not only that, maybe if you only steal only one ox, you'd be exempt. Maybe you have to steal both an ox and a sheep. One second. Okay, we are at about 9 lines from the bottom of 67b. Okay. Give me a second. Second. Okay. Okay, so here it is. It's an interesting way to do it. Okay. So the Gemara will explain it. So you have the again, you have a set of short, you steal shor v'seh, you pay 4 or 5 tachas ashar tachas aseh. That's the organization of the verse. Okay, so you have as follows. El shor de seifa, the second time it says shar, the sederation, and the first time it says a sheep. Miyater is extra. Okay, why? The verse could have written as follows. Kiyignev ish shor. If somebody steals an ox, utvachim mecharein, and he sells or slaughters. Chamid shabak or yishalom tachtav. He pays 5 cattle in place of the ox. V'arba tzayin tachas aseh, and 4 sheep if the animal stolen was a sheep. You see, we're dropping the first sheep and the second ox. Right? If you steal an ox and you sold or slaughtered, or you stole you steal an ox, sold or slaughtered, you pay 4 in place, you pay 5 in place of it, and 4 if you stole a sheep. The safe of a said, one second. Shor the safe said the ratio in midiach specifically an ox or sheep, nothing else. Okay, now we are on 5 lines in the bottom of the page 67b, and toward going back to the original topic. Eric, any question? No, I guess not. Okay.
That's got it.
Yeah, Eric, anything or not? Your hand is up.
Hello,
No. Okay. Amarav. I don't have mute on. I'm not muted. Oh, everybody. I don't know how to do this. Okay.
No, Rabbi, I'm fine now. I just need to know where we were on the page.
Perfect. Okay. 5 lines to the bottom of the page. Ain't going to Vachragan. If this goes, so whatever we just saw now, we go back to discussion of Yish. Rav. Rav says, okay, so ain't going to Vachragan, Mishal Tashlumi Kefil. So if you steal from a thief, then you do not pay kefil. Kefil is when you steal from the rightful owner. And here is where we dive right into the introduction I gave. Rav says, this is only true before the owner has given up on finding the object. But after he's given up, so kanai ganav rishon. The ganav sheni mishal dashlumi kefil ganav rishon. So if you say yush kaina, so now it belongs to the robber. The robber has no obligation to give back the specific item in question. He has a financial obligation. If a guy's a robber, okay, and you steal from him his car, which was not stolen, of course you have to pay kefil. It's his car, right? Similarly, if he steals an item and then breaks it, now he has a financial obligation. No obligation to give back a broken table. It belongs to the robber now. If you steal that broken table, why would it be different than stealing his car? You stole something that belongs to him. and therefore you should have to pay kefil. It must be that the stealing happened before the original owner gave up on the item. So actually, the stolen item still belongs to the original owner. The obligation of the robber is to return the stolen item, and that's when if a second robber steals it, the second robber does not pay kefil. Okay. Okay. Rav Sheshes. If you remember, this is Rav Sheshes' second time showing up on the scene here. Rav Sheshes first showed up on the scene a couple of days ago when Rav pronounced the concept that Karen Kan Shaganav, meaning when you steal an object, the value is dependent on the time. If you have to pay, the value that you pay is the value of the time that you stole the object. And Rav Sheshes said the same comment. Rav Sheshes says, "Amina kinaya v'shachav Rav Amar lahosh ma'itza." Rav said this when he was sleeping. The Tanya, okay, so the Tanya Amar B'kiva, Neima Amar Torah Tovach Umachar Mishal Dashlum Yarbav Chamisha, Mipnei Shenishtarish B'chet. Rabbi Kiva says, why does the Torah make you pay 4 or 5 payments if you sell or slaughter? The reason is Shenishtarish B'chet. What does Nishtarish B'chet mean? Nishtarish B'chet means you dug roots to your sin. So imagine you have a sin, and then you dig roots for it. Like, in other words, you've taken what you did and you made it even worse. Now hold on. Amos, what's the story? Elam Lefnei Yush, if we're talking about the selling or slaughtering happened before the original owner gave up on the item, Semi Ikanishtarish. Well, the sale is not valid. Right? If the sale is not valid, then the robber hasn't created roots for his sin, because the sale is just a sham. It looks like a sale, but it's not a sale because he doesn't have a right to sell it. Okay, Ella must be la'achar yish. It must be after the owner has given up. After the owner has given up, the sale is valid. Okay, the isaka daitich yish kaina. But if you'll say that yish acquires it on behalf of the robber, then amayim shal dashlum bavakammah shelo yutaveh shelo humaycher. If yish is a kinyan, then you shouldn't be paying 4 or 5 animals. Why? Because the animal now belongs to the robber. It's not the stolen animal. The robber now has a financial obligation.
The robber has a financial obligation if the original owner gave.
If you say yish kani, and the original owner has given up on the stolen item, then the robber now has a financial obligation to reimburse the value of the stolen animal. Therefore, the animal is his, and if it's his animal, he sold or slaughtered his own animal. Now, if yish is not kaina, just make this point very clear. Don't forget this. If yish is not kaina, then the sale would be valid. Meaning, what yish loy kaina means as follows: yish alone does not work. If the owner gives up, it still belongs to the owner. The robber does not acquire it. However, now if the robber sells it, the sale would be valid. Because the robber cannot remove it from the domain of the original owner through yish, through the process of the original owner giving up. But somebody else could acquire it that way. I mean, let's explain. Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
In other words, if you let's say you find a lost object and the owner has given up, then you can keep it. Doesn't. However, what happens if the owner has given up while it's in your property? That's already. We'll get to it, but it's already more complicated because it's already yours to some extent. You don't acquire it anew. It's the same thing. If you're a thief and the owner gives up, you don't acquire it. It's not yours. But if you sell it, then the buyer would acquire it. So that's how you would have dalad v'hei. At that moment, you've actually nishtarish b'chet. You've made your sin worse. Why? Because now you've taken the stolen item and you've stolen it again. Now you've removed the ownership from the original owner. That's a nishtarish b'chet. Would make sense. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Good. You don't mind putting yourself on mute. Okay. Okay, so Rav Sheshes is pointing out that yish should not be a kinyan. Okay, therefore, if yish is not a kinyan, then what? then who cares if the owner gave up on the original item? You would still pay kefil, right? Thief stealing from a thief after the original owner gave up. Who cares? You still, right? It's still a stolen item, and you stole a stolen item. You don't pay kefil on that. Rav was saying you do pay kefil. Rav Sheshes says, what do you mean? Yush is not kaina, therefore you should not pay kefil. Fair enough. So the Gemara says, so there's Rava amends the statement of Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva spoke about nishtarish. Nishtarish means you took your sin, you made it worse. Okay. Rava says no. What we're talking here is sheshana bechet, meaning you doubled your sin, meaning you attempted to sin a second time. That's all you need. Meaning, if Yush, meaning we're talking about a scenario where the original owner did not. Going back to the original introduction that I gave this morning, I asked you a question: would a sham sale be constituted tficha mechira? We said this is subject to a debate. Meaning, you steal an item, the original owner has not given up on the item. Therefore, the sale that you do, the sale performed on the item is not valid. However, perhaps it doesn't make a difference. You're still liable for attempting to sell it. The Torah doesn't actually require that you sell it. It requires that you attempted to sell it. You attempted to sell it, you're chayev. And this is the resolution for Rava. Rava says you're chayev because you attempted to sell it. Because you attempted to do two sins. And it's true that your sin, it's true the second attempt doesn't work because it's not yours to sell. You don't own it.
But you tried.
But you tried. That's sufficient. So we're talking about before Yish, and therefore there's no difficulty. And Rava would be of the opinion, by the way, that if it happened after Yish, there would be no penalty. Because Yish is kaina, therefore there's no dollar vahe.
That's Yush is kaina.
The proper phrase would be Yish kadi kana. That would be the better way to say it. So Yish kadi means Yish without anything else.
Right.
It makes it that the animal is now owned by the thief.
So there's no
Yish together with a sale, everyone agrees, is valid. If the owner gives up and the robber sells the stolen item, everyone agrees that that's valid. The question is Yish without the owner selling it.
In other words, is it unconditional?
What do you mean?
Is the Yush?
So we said that we have to be, it would be without any exceptions,
Right.
except for one, which was chametz after Pesach. And the reason for that is because he doesn't want to acquire the chametz. So where the robber, the thief, presumably really doesn't want the item, which would only be relevant presumably by chametz and Pesach, then perhaps. Okay. Toshma utvoche emechore matvicha she'enech hazeres af mechira she'enech hazeres. Okay, the verse says you have to sell, steal, you have to sell or slaughter. Now, as you might imagine, if you slaughter an animal, guess what happens? The animal slaughtered will never be alive again. It's surprising, right? No, who would have ever thought? Okay. Therefore, selling has to be the same category. It never goes back again. Okay, hold on a second. This, you can imagine, is getting us into major trouble here. What's the story? Amos, when did this happen? Hold on. You mean to say that if you sell the item, presumably that this Bryce is telling you that if you sell the item before Yush, where the sale is a sham, right? It's a pretend sale because the sale is not valid. Well, that is a sale that goes back because the sale is not valid. So clearly the Bryce is effectively saying that actually the sale must be after Yush, and therefore it must be that Yush is not kaina. Because if Yush is kaina, then by the owner giving up on the robber acquires the animal before he sells or slaughters it. And therefore what happens? He slaughtered his own animal. So it's not tavach u'macha.
Again, koina is,
Yush kind of means acquired.
but koina by itself.
Kind of means to acquire. So in the case of Yush, kind of means the robber now owns the animal. The ownership here means that he's transferred his obligation to return the stolen object into an obligation to reimburse the financial impact of his actions. That would be in the sense that you might be thinking, well, acquiring it like he already has it, right? It's in his property. The answer is that now he actually owns it. Until now, he had somebody else's property in, he's a thief, right? That's exactly what he has. But now it actually belongs to him.
And they're not contingent on each other? Like, is that what we're discussing is?
Usually they are. So
Usually they are.
presumably they're always probably, meaning that a stolen object on your property is before you, if you say Yush Kaina.
Yeah.
Then a stolen object on your property is before Yush, and an obligation to reimburse is after Yush. Now there are other possibilities also, like Shine would be the same thing. For example, you stole a table and you smashed it.
Yeah.
Before you smashed it, it was a stolen table in your property.
Yeah.
And after you smashed it, you have financial obligation to reimburse.
Okay. But if someone has used an item and they give up on it and
The
you
owner-
find it, how do you?
No, so this is all discussion of thievery.
Okay.
If in a case of a lost item, so if you lose your wallet and you give up on finding it, let's say I hear you verbalizing that.
Yeah.
Or maybe I hear you saying over conversation to your friend, then I find your wallet,
Yeah.
then I can acquire it, it's mine.
Yeah.
Okay, Amayin Chazeres. Ella must be lacharish. It must be effectively this Bryce is saying that that every sale or slaughter not every slaughter, because slaughter wouldn't make a difference because slaughter is shinemaisa. But every sale happens after Yish. What does that tell me? He is selling his own item. So why is it Dal V'Hei if you say Yish Kaina? It must be Yish is not Kaina. And that's why if Yish is not Kaina, so then the sale actually validates the removal of the property from the original owner. Right? Meaning the original owner gave up on the item. But giving up is not a kinyan. It remains the original owner is given up item in the domain of the robber, even though he gave up. Now that the robber sells it, what happens? It's no longer belongs to the original owner. Now the robber has removed it from the domain of the original owner to the buyer's domain. And that's something that will never change. It's the sale is effective.
Goes to the buyer.
What was that?
So the robber is no longer the robber, now it's.
And the robber now has a financial obligation, actually has to pay 4 or 5 times obligation now. But he's effectuated something, right? He had somebody else's product item in his domain, even though the guy gave up on it, stole somebody else's item in his domain. Now it's no longer the original owners. Okay, so the Gemara says, well, it's actually a much easier alternative. Not so fun. We'll have to stop. Basically, a simple proposition. Let's say the guy sells it. The Bryce is not referring to Yish at all. This has nothing to do with Yish.
Okay.
It's very simple. The Bryce is referring to, let's say I sell you the cow for 30 days. After 30 days, it goes back to me. So that's what the Bryce is saying. That type of sale is not a valid arrangement as it pertains to the laws of Tavach u'Machar, of selling or slaughtering. You have to make a permanent sale. What type of permanent sale? It could be an attempted permanent sale sufficient. Meaning, it could be that you can sell it even before Yush, which actually is not a sale at all. It's only an attempted sale because the sale isn't valid. That would be sufficient. But let's say you tried to attempt a sale. I'm selling it to you for 30 days. After 30 days, it goes back to me. No, that is not valid under the rules of Tavach u'Machar. And such a sale would not make the robber liable for the 4 or 5 penalties. What about Yish? I don't know. This Bryce has nothing to do with Yish at all. So we're back to the original question. Rav is going to say Yish is kaina, right? Rav Shesha says Yish is not kaina, and then we have the bridge that's in between, which is what exactly does the Torah mean when the Torah says you sell it? Does the Torah mean a sale that's actually valid or a sham sale, an attempted sale? And this is really discussion for sure tomorrow, and we'll